Should George Lucas direct Star Wars Episode 9? This is the off week and it doesn't have a theme song yet. Do-do-do-do-do. This is all you get. Do-do-do-do-do. Hi, I'm Trey Dorn and welcome to The Off Week, a show produced by nerdandtie.com on any week where we're not doing an hour-plus long podcast episode. It's fun, it's exciting, and we talk about random topics that happen to pique at least my interest. That was a much better description than last episode. Why, thank you. Anyway, what we're here to talk about this episode is George Lucas, or more specifically, George Lucas and Star Wars, or more specifically, whether or not George Lucas should direct another Star Wars. Because there's a petition out there, and over 20,000 people have signed it, that they want Disney to fire Colin Trevorrow. They want Disney to fire Colin Trevorrow and replace him with George Lucas for Star Wars Episode 9. Now, I have a lot of opinions on this, but most of all, it's singular, and that is that this is, well, stupid. This is stupid, and for, like, all the reasons. First and foremost, Colin Trevorrow is actually not a bad director. He directed Jurassic World, which, got to hold on to its little award of having the biggest opening weekend of all time right up until Episode 7 came out, and he did a good job. Now, Jurassic World is far from a perfect movie. In fact, there's lots of things wrong with Jurassic World, but most of those come from the story or in the script. They weren't in the actual direction, and Rian Johnson, R-I-A-N Johnson, he's actually writing Episode 9, not Colin Trevorrow, so any of my complaints about Trevorrow are alleviated instantly. So, what's wrong with Colin directing? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with him. Why would you fire a perfectly good director? But, whatever. I mean, frankly, if Rian Johnson's script is solid, there really can't be a problem, right? And if George Lucas was only hard to direct, that wouldn't fix any script problems. Oh God, you don't think these people want him to write the movie too? Secondly, George Lucas has not made a good movie in a very, very, very long time. I want you to go back and think of the last good movie that was directed by George Lucas. And if you say the prequels, so help me God, I will slap you. There are good parts of prequels. Good parts do not a good movie make. The whole movie's got to be good, or, at least not suck. Oh. The answer, of course, you came to is Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, or as it was known when it came out, just Star Wars, before you slap that extra title on there. And now, I'm not saying that George Lucas directed a bunch of bad movies between A New Hope and The Phantom Menace. I'm saying he directed no movies between A New Hope and The Phantom Menace. Don't believe me? Pull up IMDb. I'll wait. Oh, new mail. I bet you thought he directed Howard the Duck. He didn't. Just executive produced. So George Lucas hasn't directed a good movie since 1977. The real truth is that George Lucas has only ever directed two great movies. Star Wars, A New Hope, and American Graffiti. That's it. THX 1138 is pretty to look at, but boring as sin. The prequels are, well, we know what I think about the prequels. What are your thoughts on the prequels? I like parts of them. We just went over this. But that's every full-length feature he's directed. That's just 6 movies. And he hasn't done any good ones since the 1970s. The 1970s. That's before I was born. That's probably before you were born, because I'm betting I'm older than most of the people who watch our stuff. That is a success rate of 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 movies that George Lucas directs will be phenomenal, and the other 2 will be garbage. And you want to know why George Lucas made great movies in the 1970s, but kind of mediocre films in the late 20th or the 21st century? It's because in the 1970s, he had to listen to people. George Lucas had really interesting ideas, but wasn't always good at follow-through. So he had to take notes from the studio, which told him, okay, this isn't working. If you look at the deleted scenes from Star Wars and New Hope, you can see that there was a lot more boring political talk that we were all subjugated to in the prequels that really doesn't fit in the original trilogy. And when he was making Star Wars, the first one, he had to actually listen to people. If you look at THX 1138, you know he had the capacity for super boring back in the day. But when he started making commercially successful movies, he learned to stop doing that, to listen to other people. When the prequels rolled around, when time you get to, decades later, he suddenly is known as George Lucas, the George Lucas. The George Lucas. And no one's willing to tell him no anymore. And that's why you get these kind of raw, uncrafted terribleness that is the prequels, that could have been great had someone edited him and told him what not to do. Lucas's best work is when he's borrowing from other people, when he's taking the advice of others and crafting it. There are genius directors who exist, who don't need feedback, where studio notes are a hindrance, but they're very few, and George Lucas was not one of them. So the instant he stopped listening, the instant he stopped hearing other people, that's when his films went down the garbage chute. I see what you did there. Clever, wasn't it? Finally, and this may be the most important reason that George Lucas should not direct Episode 9. He doesn't want to. Disney, with these new movies, scrapped his entire plan for the original third trilogy, and George Lucas has gone on record saying he doesn't really want anything to do with the Star Wars brand anymore. He doesn't want to be directing it. He doesn't want to be doing stuff for it. He's said some positive stuff about Episode 7 after saying some negative stuff about Episode 7, but none of it really matters because George Lucas has said he doesn't want to do any more Star Wars. And so what you're doing is you're trying to petition to replace a guy who wants the job, who will do a good job, with a guy who doesn't want the job, who in many ways hates the direction that the films are going. And so by the time you get to Episode 9, you guys want a director who doesn't want to direct the movie, the script he's going to be given. That's never a good thing. That's not going to result in something amazing. That's going to result in something, well, how do I say? Oh yes, I said it before, stupid. Stupid. George Lucas made movies he loved with the prequels, and they turned out to be terrible. Can you imagine how bad the movie would be if he hated making it? Just puzzle that out for a minute. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe George Lucas would do a phenomenal job. Maybe I'm just crazy. You tell me. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Tell me in the comments. Go to Nerd and Tie and click on the little contact form and make sure you mention that it's about an off-week episode. And in a couple episodes, we're going to do a feedback special and go through all your comments about all these episodes, since feedback's been coming back more about these than, other stuff. I don't know. It's fun. It's exciting. It's full of pie. Why? Oh, what? My shoe is actually full of pie. The hell did this to my shoe? None of this makes any sense. Oh, God.